In color, the continuing story of Peyton Place. Starring Dorothy Malone as Constance Mackenzie, Ed Nelson as Michael Rossi, Ryan O'Neill as Rodney Harrington, Barbara Parkins as Betty Anderson, Tim O'Connor as Elliot Carson, Christopher Connolly as Norman Harrington, Patricia Morrow as Rita Harrington, James Douglas as Stephen Cord.
Rodney Harrington finds himself drawn to the apartment of his younger brother, Norman. Perhaps here, in the midst of Norman's solid marriage to Rita Jacks, Rodney can rid himself of the bitter aftertaste of a destructive, shouting argument with his former wife, Betty Cord.
I'll get some coffee. None of your watery French kind, but hard desert-style blend. We boiled dead camels for 3 days.
Yeah, you're telling me.
Oh, hi, Rod. Come on in.
Oh, wait.
Hi. What's up?
Miss Rita?
Rod, hi.
Hi. I was just getting here some coffee. You want some?
Oh, no, thank you. I've got to meet a customer first thing. Here.
What's that?
It's money.
Hey, well, thanks for the thought, Rod, but we really don't need it.
Take it, will you? None of that proud and noble routine. Just take it. You've got a sick wife.
Well, like I said, I appreciate it, but we're doing okay without it. You've done enough for us.
Oh, no, no, it's not from me. It's from Grandfather. You remember him, don't you? Tall man, white hair. Lives in a big house on the hill.
Yeah, you don't have to get sarcastic about
Oh, yes, I do have to get sarcastic, because he's tried to offer you money before, and you pulled that rebel routine with him and wouldn't take it. Well, this time you're going to take it. What you're going to do, as Dr. Rossi suggested, you're going to get a practical nurse and pay those hospital bills.
I don't want it.
Hey, would you do me a favor? Just cool that image for once, will you? Just cool that image.
You know, you really take the cake. Here, I thought I was a naive one. But you take the cake. Take it back. I don't want it.
No, no. You take it back. You let Rita down. I'm not going to.
Hey, Rod, she doesn't think I'm letting her down. You're the only one that could dream up something like that.
Goodbye, Norman.
Rod, wait a minute, will you? I'm sorry. You came here to do something nice, and here I act like you're gonna repossess the furniture.
I think I better take this.
Hey, something else is bothering you. What is it?
A couple of things.
Well, tell me. Come on, you always say we could talk. Right?
And I think I think he's spoiling Betty out of her mind. Her head's getting as big as that limousine. She's heading for a big fall.
Wait a minute, when did all this happen? I mean, when did you start thinking about Betty again?
Well, it's been happening.
Hey, Rod, you gotta live with the present. It's the only way. Look, I don't have the prescription for it. I wish I did. But somebody's got it. And you ought to be out looking for it. You know, looking for the real thing. Like, maybe Rachel?
I'll take this back to Grandfather.
Hey, no. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me think about it for a while. Maybe I should be the one accepting things now.
See you later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Cord to see you.
Well, send him in.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Stephen. Leslie? Paper bagging it? Whatever happened to the famous multiple martini business, Mrs. Leslie? I'm afraid that's mainly at the junior executive level. Stephen, I wonder if we could put off the discussion of the new insurance program until tomorrow.
I'm not here for Mr. Peyton today, Leslie. I'm representing Elliot Carson.
Elliot?
In connection with Jack Chandler.
Oh. Oh, yes. The fight. But I thought Chandler decided not to press charges, that he was dropping the matter.
He is. But we aren't. You see, every time Chandler backs off, it makes him look a little more suspicious. What do you know about him, Leslie?
Very little, Stephen. I put him to work as a dock worker a couple of months ago. And then when Elliot told me about his background, and that he thought he might be mixed up with Allison's disappearance, why, I let him go.
Fired him?
That's right. I don't want anyone of that type around here.
Well, you hired him at a time when you were laying men off. Men who had worked for you for years.
The dock workers are a transient lot, Stephen. They come and go. If he'd applied for a more skilled position, he wouldn't have had a chance.
Then you didn't know anything about his prison record before he applied?
No, nothing at all. Naturally, he didn't refer to it on his personnel record.
You still have the form?
Yes. Elliot's seen it.
Well, you wouldn't mind if I take it with me, would you? It may still have some relevance later on.
Why, certainly. Miss Harris will give it to you on the way out. I'm afraid I have to get back to these samples.
All right. You mind if I have a cup of coffee before I go? Had a long afternoon.
Go ahead.
Well, this has seen some use.
Yes, it has. It's the same thermos I carried in my lunch pail when I was a mill hand.
Really? I never would have earmarked you as a sentimentalist, Leslie.
It's not a question of being sentimental, Stephen. When you've been down, it's a good idea to have a reminder around. So you remember that no matter what you do to stay on top, it's justified.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have just heard the credo of one Mr. Leslie Harrington, executive.
Well, you agree with me, don't you, Stephen? Isn't that the reason you married Betty? To remind yourself that you were on the way up, and to put whatever you were behind you once and for all.
No, I married Betty for exactly the opposite reason. To remind myself that there's something else in this world besides self-interest.
She's a charming girl. She makes Mr. Peyton's memos almost bearable.
Well, don't get your heart set on seeing her much longer.
You object to her running errands for the old man?
Not in principle, just in practice. I think he should confine her duties to business hours.
Oh, you're referring to her visiting me at the inn the other day. Well, I'm afraid we can't blame that one on the old man. She came on a personal matter.
And what was that?
Well, she asked me to keep it confidential.
Really?
Ask her. I don't believe in betraying a confidence. Unless it's absolutely necessary.
I bet. You know, I sincerely hope Jack Chandler didn't ask you to keep anything confidential. Or vice versa. And since you make a point of recalling relics from your past, I hope a Mr. Jack Forrest never did either.
Forrest? Oh, yes. That's the name Chandler used to go by. Isn't it?
So they say. Goodbye, Leslie. Thanks for the coffee.
My pleasure, Stephen.
Yes, sir.
Get me Tom Teal, the Blaine Detective Agency in New York.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Tom. How are you?
Just fine, Mr. Harrington. How about yourself?
Fine. Say, I want you to make out a duplicate copy of the report you made on Betty Anderson a couple of years back. I want it sent blind to the office of Stephen Cord, Peyton Place Bank Building. Cord, C-O-R-D.
Will do. Blind, huh? Well, do you want me to send a letter along with it?
No letters. And no reference to me of any kind, now or later. I want this kept strictly confidential.
Will do, Mr. Harrington.
Shall we, pick a couple? Do you want to get your own?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure. I could put a splint on this one. Actually, this particular species goes back over, well, several thousand years. Tommy, see what you can do with these, huh?
I'll see if I can spoil them for you. Eat your chowder before it gets cold.
Oh, you want some hot sauce?
Mm-hmm.
Boy, there's no accounting for taste.
Good?
It's delicious.
Oh, wait a minute. The full treatment. Actually, I think you should thank Mr. Carson for this, because he suggested we come here to discuss this rather important item, and, well, he thought I should discuss it with you. I actually thought maybe he should bring it up, and well, if you follow what I mean. No, of course not.
Is it about Jack Chandler?
Yes, that's exactly what it's about. You went to the hospital this evening.
Oh, it was just for a minute.
Rachel, that's 60 seconds too long. He's a dangerous man.
Oh, I didn't see what harm he could do me in the hospital.
Rachel, that's not the point. Did Mr. Carson tell you Chandler had served some time in prison?
No.
No, that's probably because he didn't think you were old enough to know. He did. He served time in prison. He was convicted for criminal assault. Now, you're old enough to know what that means, aren't you?
Yes, I know what that means.
What are we going to do about it?
Well, I just won't go near him anymore.
Well, that's fine. That's half the problem. But how are we going to keep him from going near you? I think you better think about going away.
You mean I should leave town?
Just for a while.
Where would I go?
Well, you just name it, that's all. I know a good girls' school. It's a boarding school in Vermont.
Wait a minute. I don't understand what you're saying, Dr. Rossi. You say that you've talked about this with Mr. Carson?
Yes. Naturally, it'll be your decision.
Whose idea was it that I go away? Was it his? Or was it yours?
It was mine.
I see.
Now look, it took 3 years for those fellas to grow up. You can't expect me to put them down on a counter in 3 minutes.
Do you know what these are?
Yeah, these are the pegs they put in the lobster claws to keep them from pinching.
To keep them from fighting. You put two lobsters together and all they want to do is hurt each other.
Hey.
I don't see that people are any different.
Rachel, listen to me. Do you think I would ever do anything in any way to hurt you?
You're doing it, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I'm simply suggesting that you go off to a good school where you can get the finest education.
Are you afraid I won't get a good enough education right here?
I'm afraid what Chandler will do if you stay here.
Is Mr. Carson afraid of that, too?
Well, yes, of course he is.
But he doesn't want me to go away. And you do. So there's more to it than that,
Now,
isn't
what?
there?
What more?
It must bother you to have me around.
Rachel, have I ever given any indication that you do anything to annoy me?
I didn't mean annoy. I'm not that young. I think you know exactly what I'm talking about.
All right. Look, I'm not going to lie to you. You're right. Does that make you feel better?
Oh, it would. I'd be so glad to hear you say it. Except the only thing you want to do about it is to get rid of me.
I'm just trying to do what's best for all concerned.
It's my decision, so I'll think about it. And whether I go or whether I stay, I promise you one thing. I won't bother you.